So welcome everybody, in person and then online. I'm Villa Park Mayor Chad Zimmerman, and tonight we are doing our inflation town hall, subtitled "How Consumers Can Prepare for the Recession." So I just want to welcome everybody that's here. We have a nice crowd here of local residents and some staff. Thank you guys for coming. Our hosts tonight, we have Bill Underwood, who is our Villa Park City Treasurer. We have Dan Gray, who is our mortgage and buying and financing expert. We also have Bill Taryn, our Villa Park Building Inspector, our building official utilities, really knows everything about all of it. So, then myself to try to add some of the layperson commentary and some stuff that I know, although I'm an IT guy, I'm here to help. So let me give you a brief outline. We're going to go through some of the recession basics, what's, why's, how's, and then we're going to talk about an approach and a checklist for identifying action items to do with inflation. We're going to go through city impact, some of the stuff for us in Villa Park, talk about the broader picture on mortgaging and housing, and then consumer behaviors to save more, spend less, some of the stuff that I've gone through research on, and then we'll have an open mic discussion where you guys can have questions. We can go through some quick ideas, and you guys can bounce ideas off of us, and we can try to get some of those things taken care of. So if I didn't say it already, thank you to our speakers. Thank you guys for making yourselves available to us. I appreciate that very much. And with that having been said, we do have a packet of information, so if you haven't gotten one already and you're here and you'd like to pick one of these up, please grab the handouts. And I wanted to say one last thing, which is that we're not here to point fingers or say, oh, well, it's this person and these people did this, but this is really about solutions and what we can do. It's certainly worth explaining kind of where some of the stuff came from, and that helps explain to where it's headed. But we'll try to keep this as positive and forward-looking as we can, just to try to keep it on that level if we can. So first up, Bill, if you're ready and able. Thanks, sir.
Well, thanks for being here. When we first started, when Chad had the idea that he said, a lot of people are asking me about what we are doing in the inflation, in the recession, and what should I do with the inflation and how should I cover it? And he said, here's my answers, but I feel like we really need to talk about this. So probably not particularly the people here, but we're also being streamed. So we've got a lot of experience in the room. So I talked to Steve initially. I said, this doesn't sound like something we should talk to the city council about. It's a nuanced answer. It's different for our different situations. And he said, why don't we do a town hall? And so I've never, in my 40 years here, think I've ever experienced a town hall in Villa Park. In the Northeast, they certainly do it well in New England. And basically, that's dependent on the participation of the audiences. Sometimes they're structured, sometimes they're not structured, often to solve a particular problem the city has and has very open discussion about it. So no idea is a bad idea. If you look at this green form, for instance, you'll see a couple of the rules that we have. As we finish 3-minute topics here to kind of stimulate your thinking and tell you what we may talk about, we'll have speaker forms if you want to speak on either one of two things. One, a situation that a friend has or you have or your kids have and how it might be addressed, and love another opinion on it. You'd fill out this form on number 2 there, describe the situation and a question, very high level, so we can make sure we cover it. We could probably do it as simply as raising hands at this point, but it would help to structure it if we have a lot. And then 2, third, actually, if you could have an example where you've in past years, and we've got quite a few years on our faces and hairs at this point, that you could describe where you know a good deal can be had, where a good feature can be had, and we'd like to share that and say that's it. We're going to stay at a fairly general level, and you'll see when we go through our handouts in a minute that we have both high-level stuff and we have detailed stuff, and they're also for different audiences. So it could be for the very young who are starting out, could be your kids or grandkids, could be for yourself, could be for your kids, could be a lot of different ways. So there are different areas. Along that line, pick up this one out of your folder. It has a graph on the top, a bar chart overlaid with a graph chart, and says gross domestic product, GDP. I won't spend any time on that because you know what that's about, but it shows how the three, they call it three recessions, went through in 2001 when we had that recession. It happened so quickly that it doesn't really show a blip in GDP. And then we had the Great Recession in 2008 that did show a blip in the GDP, and it showed the COVID recession that really came quickly and left quickly. A little like a hurricane, quite frankly. Not totally predicted that it was going to come back that quick, but it came back. The news out of that is, as we've lived through them, it's not a panic. Our economy comes back. And so you see that trend upward. Luckily, we lived in that segment. On the next page is something I pulled out of the Harvard Business Review about how marketers view us and our consumer patterns in recessionary times. And down the vertical axis, you see 4 types of styles. The reaction to a recession coming, you have the slam on the brakes type. Yes, sir. I don't know how to show it.
We are not. So if anybody's interested, just let them know that they can come by and pick one up.
It shows on the vertical axis, slam on the brakes type, pained but patient. Down the next level, comfortably well off and live for today. And the types of situations are, how do they react to buying essentials, or in this case, selling essentials? They're from a marketing point of view. How do they react to buying treats? How do they react to postponables? And how do they react to buying expendables? And you see in the red, in the green path, in the essentials, it's all the same. You keep buying those things because you need essentials, the big 4. In the treats, it varies. It starts getting a little cautionary, that yellow tail there, mixed market by each of the 3 types. And on the 4th type, when it gets to postponables, the slam on the brakes stops. Quit buying that, red. And then also stops buying expendables. And similarly, the next level down, the pained but patient type, they finally curtail their expenditures for the expendables. And then the others go cautionary. And the bottom 2 particularly go on life. They have enough resources. They go right through it, live through it to the next level. As you saw in the previous chart, gross domestic product, we'll talk tonight about how important having a emergency savings fund in a liquid sense so that you can spend that. So I thought about myself on this one, say, well, wait a minute, I'm not sure I have a expenditure fund. The city, we have 6 months of operating budget in liquid form that we can react to whatever happens. So that's whether you have the flood or the dam or the sewer, whatever it comes up. We didn't know it was coming, and we've got 6 months of money that we can take in. Even though we're not really, as you know better than I, people who've been on the city council, that we really have a recession-proof kind of town because our income comes from property tax, not sales tax. So, in fact, sometimes our property values go up with the price of real estate, so an inflation can send the prices up that way. So with that, however, turn to the next page. we did some research, put together quite a bit of research for you. There are lots of ways to prepare for recession. And here's kind of a 7-step process. It starts with emergency savings and investments and paying off debt, budgeting, and then making sure the stream of incomes are still coming in. I reduced that down to, after going through the recession, going through the literature, put that down to, and I'll read this for the people on the stream, to number one, to assess your finances and establish an emergency fund. And that could be build up an emergency fund if you've already got one. The literature has changed over the years. It used to be, as I grew up and went through investment schooling, it was 3 to 6 months emergency fund is what you needed. Now they talk more like 9 to 12 months. And in fact, nobody really knows how long a recession happens or whether it will happen. But I did get today, maybe you saw it, oops. I did see today, maybe you saw it, a couple of days ago, Jeff Bezos got quoted. You may have seen that. Guy who owns Amazon, I don't know how many billions he is now, but the guy who sells us, is probably the leading retailer, owns a leading retail firm, says the following 2 days ago. The economy does not look great right now. Things are slowing down. You're seeing layoffs in many, many sectors. The probability says if we're not in recession right now, we'll likely be in one very soon. Take as much risk off the table as you can. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. The probabilities in this economy tell you to batten down the hatches. I personally wouldn't buy at this point in time. So the employees of Amazon said, what are you saying? We want these people to keep buying. Well, so that's what he's saying. But he's buffered by 11 other key names, some of which I'll pick out here. Elon Musk, not the most measured individual anymore, but CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and Twitter, says there's going to be probably a year or two of serious recession. Frankly, the economic picture ahead is dire, especially for a company like ours that is so dependent on advertising in a challenging economic climate. And of course, he's thinking about his $44 billion that he just bought a company that's fired half his people and not sure they're going to have enough advertising to keep it going. Ken Griffin, who is a venture fund guru who used to live in Chicago, CEO of Citadel, and moved his company down to Florida to avoid the taxes, says for the Fed to truly conquer inflation here, we're going to put unemployment somewhere in the mid to 4% range. I find it hard to believe we're not going to have a recession at that point in time, sometime in the middle to back of half of 2023. Charlie Munger, who lives over in Pasadena, Warren Buffett's business partner and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, I think the Fed is willing to have a little recession in order to not have out-of-control inflation. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be the one guy at the party who doesn't hang around the punch bowl getting drunk. And I'll let this go. I'll finish up with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan. I think there's a possibility of mild recession. Consumers are in very good shape, companies are in very good shape, and there's a possibility of something worse, mostly because of the war in Ukraine and oil prices and all things like that. And if you heard the news like that tonight, all things like that is the United States unions for the real estate industry rejected the proposal that that Biden negotiated and have voted against that. So be a shame if we had a rail strike on top of the war and other things that are going on. So we don't know what's going to happen. No one does. But an emergency fund in that step one makes sense whether there's a recession or not, because you never know what's going to happen around the line. Step two of the three-step approach was simple, and I picked this up from Chad in terms of the simplicity of the language, was save more, spend less. It sounds simple to do. It's hard to pull off. We are creatures of who we are. So that the detail underneath that says, examine your expenses and cut out necessary purchases. So you'll see later as we go into detail, the studies and the data is very strong that if you want to make a change, write it down and put a date on it and try to quantify it. So if you say, I need to put $10,000 in the emergency fund in a year, or whatever the numbers are, 1,000, 2 months, whatever, then the chances are you doing that is much stronger. And of course, the real affirmation type of people say, and put it up on your mirror and repeat it to yourself every day. But if you have, the human spirit is, if you have a goal, you'll generally make that happen. If you don't have a goal and you just say, I don't know, I think my budget's okay, then the chance of making change might be a little bit harder. So with that, we have some starter areas and potential ideas in the very 2 thick items in the back that are checklists. They're about, there's a lot of ideas. There's about 325 ideas or so, and those 17 checklists, we'll go to those later. Some of them are very detailed level. Some of them don't apply to you at your point in life. Some do. But I couldn't find one source that put them together. I think AARP probably came the closest. They had 99 ideas, very organized and structured, and we have that material in here as well. And then finally, track and negotiate it. So once you do that, but I think the very first one, and I started doing it when putting this together, I found the number of subscription expenditures I make that I don't look at, that just roll on. And they don't seem like too much, they're X amount, but I multiply it by if it's a monthly one, I multiply it by the number of months. I have a phone line I don't use. It charges me, I don't know, $67 a month or something. Okay, it's fine. No, we take $70 times 12. It's like, okay, that's real money. And maybe I'll blow it on something else, but get the bread. So I think just examining your credit card bill and your checks and say, do I really need that one? The one they use in here on some of the list is the $5 cup of coffee at Starbucks. That doesn't seem like a lot until you multiply it by 365 days. It's a pretty good bill. So that's that material. I'll not go through the rest on recessions. You guys know, this audience knows it as well. I think the issue, though, even though you hear these words, don't fear the bear market. Don't fear recession, particularly if you've got the economics that it's not going to. In my case, I'm retired, so I'm not dependent on a job. So it's such an income stream that's a little bit steadier. So I'm dependent on income streams that come in. But if I were starting out again and working for Disney, or maybe not even starting out, I'm the CEO of Disney, and I find out one day, I'm fired. I just got hired 4 months ago. They gave me a 3-year contract, and they put me out on the street. I assume in his case, he'll get a golden parachute of some type. But it's a tough time, and I think we're going to have a lot of news. But I think a little like the pandemic, when you got tired of being panicked about the virus and COVID, just turn off the TV sometimes. I mean, these guys got to have something to talk about, and Wolf Blitzer loves to make it, it's just really tough stuff. So we'll talk about that tonight, get around that. And with that, our lineup tonight has changed a little bit. Originally, my partner in crime in setting this up was going to be the chairman of the Investment Advisory Committee, Lynn Doty. Hi, Lynn, I hope you're watching. And Lynn had some family difficulties and had to bow out, not marriage difficulties, family things that occurred. And so, but she left by saying, she's been working with Bill Tarrin in building her house, and said, Bill would like to talk about utility bills and communications and that type of thing. And I said, oh, that'd be terrific. So Bill's going to talk. And then Pam Dunn was going to speak as mortgage broker. And she had some of her family members, not close family members, but family members had some health issues. And the next best thing to a Pam Dunn, and maybe better, is Dan Gray. And he's a real estate agent, so not a mortgage broker, but a guy who gives a lot of families of different situations some advices and has done very well in real estate. And then Chad was the one who got us into this thing. He had some ideas, so we're going to find out what those are. So with that, let me turn it over. Let me not go through, I went through the checklist. Let me just go through and let you see these checklists are 50 and 52 pages each, and they have lots of ideas and takes a little work on your part to call through and find out which ones apply to you. But I think what you should take out of this one tonight is the approach to preparing for the recession and handling it is awareness on your part that maybe there's some things you can do in your portfolio, your consumer spending, and spend some time doing that, and then putting it in writing and making a goal to improve as we do in each and every other thing. And we take that one away. But lots of ways to do it. Bill? You are absolutely. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Bill, by the way, works with a lot of cities. He gave me a little background on the number of cities he works with. He's got a lot of experience.
Thank you. You guys, Chad, how are you? How are you guys? How's everybody? It's good to be here. I'm normally not up here doing this with you, but I'm here to help. You know, the city is here to help you all, no matter what it is. We're here to help. I get some crazy questions all the time in the building department. One homeowner a couple of days ago asked me come by his place. He wants to build an ADU in his backyard. Plenty of room, he can do it. I said, what's your budget? I don't know. He said, well, what do you want? ADU, blah, blah, blah. I said, you're going to need about $300,000. And he said, let me talk to my wife. That's a big chunk, 300. The average ADU in Villa Park is at least 250. So you do the math and what that's going to come back to you with. It's a great investment. In Villa Park dirt is the best investment in Southern California. Look at the size of your properties. You can add an ADU in your backyard, you can rent it out, and there's income. Just think about the dirt in Villa Park. When I first got here 22 years ago, one of the homeowners that I met turned out to be a great friend of ours, my wife and I. He was like, I got to get this done. I got to get this project done. I got to get this done. I got to sell this project. I said, oh, great. Okay, what are you going to sell it for? He says, 600,000. 22 years ago, he needed to sell that property for 600,000. Okay, today that property is worth 2.1 million. Okay, in 20 years, what is that? 20 years, what's going to happen? Where are we going with all this crazy money? I've been through a lot of recessions, call them recessions, ups and downs in my industry. I started out in my career in 1978, and I've seen them go up and then hit the wall, and construction go down and come back up, hit the wall, go back down. Since I've been here in Villa Park, I've seen the industry go up, hit the wall, and keep on going. You people in Villa Park are doing the right thing. I've seen in one recession in Villa Park, it didn't matter. It wasn't a recession. You people in Villa Park just keep making money, bringing money in, keeping your business happening. This city is like no other city I personally have ever seen in my construction career. Anyway, I got off track here, so I got some notes here. You all have a little handout. Anybody wants that little handout I put together on energy, conservation? It's normal stuff, okay? But remember that we're here. I get a lot of calls from people. Can I do this? What do you do? What can I do if I want to do this kind of thing? It varies, and I have to watch how I answer. But ask me, call me, email me. You know, I'm not here all that often, but I'll get back to you one way or the other. I work a lot for Villa Park, and you don't know how much I work for Villa Park because I love you guys. You guys, most of you in Villa Park are family to me and my wife and my family because I care about you people because you care about your family. And I've been to a lot of cities, and there's a lot of cities that don't care. And this city cares, and that's huge for your community. Let's see, where am I? My name is Bill Tarrant, following my notes. Energy conservation started around 1980. Now, the word energy conservation started about 1980. And okay, let's do it. And I did all sorts of things in energy conservation with the State Energy Commission, Title 24. If any of you contractors out there know me, I'm hard on you when it comes to Title 24. I can read your energy calcs like nobody else can read your energy calcs because I've been reading them for 42 years. So I know what the state energy wants to do because it's proven math. Okay, you look at, and I'll show you in your energy calculations how that proven math will save you money if you do what those calcs tell you to do. There's so much in those calculations that contractors, architects, designers have no clue about. I do, because that's my job, and I'm going to make sure it's done to your home because this product of energy conservation makes sense. I can go on and on and on about that stuff, but I'm very, very conscious of energy conservation. I am an energy auditor. I try not to get involved in that because it's so time consuming and I don't have the time for that. But every watt, every light, everything you turn on energy costs energy. It's like gasoline in your car. You got to do it. It just runs out. So you're going to pay for it one way or the other. Next note here, feel free to contact me anytime. Call me, leave a message, email me, look online, you'll see me, I'm there. And I'll help you out any way I can. I'll email you my little list of things that I put together in about 20 minutes, and you can go over that. But it's common sense mostly, okay? And any questions you have here, ask. Just raise your hand and ask me the questions you might have. Most of on this list is long-term savings. It's not going to save you money tomorrow. It's long-term savings, okay? Like that first note you see there, Edison, Energy Star, EnergyStar.gov. Everything you buy has Energy Star label on it, and it's proven in the state of California, if you make something that uses energy, it better be an Energy Star product because that's supposed to save energy. So when you go to SoCal Edison's website and you look for rebates, you look like how to conserve and all that, it's going to tell you where to go for these Energy Star products. And look for rebates, residential rebates. Now this new thing that came out of the feds, as of January 1 next year, you could insulate your home and you can get, if it's a big house, probably up to $1,200 back on your insulating design in your home. $1,200. I don't know how much it's going to cost because I don't get involved in that as much. But next year, that Reinvestment Act, whatever Biden put together, does that for you as a consumer. So remember that. Talk to your tax guy about the tax benefits next year, January 1. And remember, in our zone, attic insulation minimum R30. R30 insulation, that R is a number that we try to keep the condition there, heat or cool inside the building. And the ceilings, R30. And the walls, it's R15. I just left a house up for the Carey family on Mesa. They have a lot of glass. Now, it's a trade-off, okay? It's a trade-off. You got a lot of glass, you need more insulation. Minimum in the attic, room addition, R30. This house up on Mesa, R44, because you have more glass. They have more glass, and that's just a trade-off. So those energy calcs will do that. They'll help you compromise and trade off what you want to look at that view. That's why you bought that lot. All that glass, well, you got to put more insulation on the roof, okay? Now, SoCal Gas. Remember, SoCal Gas rebates, SoCal Gas. Go there, too, and talk to your tax guy on what you can deduct and what you can't. Easy things. Do the cheapest things first on energy conservation in your home. Light bulbs, LEDs. They're not going to take. So one of the things, when you pull an electrical permit from me, I kind of want to know, where's all this electrical going? What are you doing? Years ago, it used to be, it had this big old long list of all these things that are using energy. Today, because of LEDs, that list is like this long. LEDs save you a tremendous amount of money. And they're really easy to change. You just screw them in, unscrew them. In my house, all my outside lights are smart light bulbs. They sense the light and day. They turn off when it gets dark, and they turn on when it gets dark and turn off when it gets light. I just leave the switch on. And I look at all my neighbors, and all their lights are on in the daytime because they forget to turn the lights off. So just get a bulb, screw it in. It's a smart bulb technology. So LEDs, pay a lot of attention to LEDs. Cheapest thing to do for you, okay? Next thing on that list is occupancy sensors. In the rooms that you don't use occupancy sensors, we have them here. Our engineer, she yelled at me. She says, Bill, these lights keep turning off. I'm on my computer. I don't move for 5 minutes. A light turns off. And she's like, so I had to change the switch. Your light turns off too, doesn't it? And she's in the dark. We don't know if she's in there because it's dark in there. That's what we want, saving energy. And we don't know she's in there, but that's okay. Occupancy sensors in all these rooms. I get a lot of questions about solar panels. Do they work? Ask your neighbors. Do they work? Ask them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but you got to do the math. So you figure, what is your energy bill? How much is your Edison bill? Is it $200, $300, $500 a month, $2,000 a month for your Edison bill? So you add solar. How much is solar panels going to cost you? It costs you about $1,000 a panel. How many panels do you need? They're going to make so much energy to replace that $2,000 a month of energy cost. Where's the math? When are you going to get your return on investment? 2 years, 5 years? Today, it better be less than 5 years. If it doesn't work out less than 5 years, don't do it, okay? 5 years ago, it was 10 years. I was telling people, it doesn't do 10 years, don't do it. Today, because of the way these components are manufactured, 5 years. 5 years, you should pay off. Return on investment should be in 5 years. The smart thing to do is, like, it's easy for me with math, and you don't know about solar, so just put 10 panels on your roof. Look at your energy bill in 6 months. See what 10 panels did and how much it reduced your energy load. Okay, if it looked good, do the math. Add 10 more. Do the math, and then see what happens. One of our ex-council members, I told him to do that, and he's like, yeah, now I have 20 panels on my roof. Question? Yeah. Depending on when you bought them, today's energy panels can create a lot more energy than probably yours do, okay? And it's a sales pitch. You can buy whatever you want to buy.
So if I want to buy 5 panels to augment some of it.
Yeah, sure. I'm getting a lot of homeowners that are adding on to their existing panels, and it's helping them reduce their costs. Yes, ma'am.
Do you need a permit from the city?
Of course, you need a permit. You need a permit for almost anything except for changing the light bulb. You don't need a permit for changing the light bulb, but to change the light fixture, you do. For the solar panels, yes, there's a lot involved in solar panels, and I'm different. My mind works different when it comes to the drawings, calculations that are submitted to me for energy for solar panels. They're all submitted online. The solar industry petitioned Sacramento and said, this is how we want to do our business, Sacramento. And we need you to tell all those building departments, this is how we're going to do it. This way. And Sacramento said, okay. And Sacramento told us, this is how you're going to do this. So when it first hit, a lot of cities were like, let me check on your project here. And they took months to figure out these solar panel projects. And I looked at these solar plans. There's about 10 sheets. I don't know how many you have. You didn't have that many. I think you're putting on panels on your house. We just gave you the permit. You had the most paper on yours because the information was great for for your system. And I don't look at a lot of that. Some cities will look at everything. They look at everything that is being submitted to them. Why? You don't have to look at all that. Just look at what's worst case. And so what I do is I just look at the wiring. I look at the safety features of how all these electrical components are going to be put together. And I have a checklist. I didn't bring a checklist, but in every permit file that I have, I do a lot of checklists. Every file that I have, when I go out to the field, I have this checklist. Hey, what are you doing, Mr. Solar Guy? Panels? Okay. Panels, how many? 10 panels? Check. Okay, let's see your wiring size. Wiring size on your plan says number 3? Check. And I go through this like 20 checklists on every project in the city because I'm not going to remember everything and I'm not going to make a mistake. That's why the checklist. So there's a lot there, but I only concentrate on what's important. Some of the other things, some of the things like UL. UL really gets involved in this. They have to. It goes on and on and on, and I don't have to do that because it's already taken care of. How many of you read the UL requirements for your blender, for your dishwasher? How many? I don't see any. Nobody reads that papers except this guy, okay? Because I'm here to protect you. I'm so weird. I read white paper. It's called a white paper from UL. It's the test that UL does for all these electrical things. Crazy mind I got because I'm protecting you. Because I want to know what UL's making the manufacturer do so that the installer does it correct, and I have to verify it. So what is important in all that? I go to UL or whoever approves whatever that is I'm looking at. So when you submit your project to me, I look at those things. I knock them out in about 20 minutes, half hour. Online, I just check, boom, 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 send it out here, pay this fee, call me for inspection. So yeah, answer your question, long way, get a permit. You can't put them on otherwise because Edison's not going to let you turn that switch on to start generating energy for your house until you get an approval from us. Okay, so yes, anytime a permit, please ask us. I do so many letters. I'm like the only guy in the state of California that files complaints with the contractor's license board on somebody who doesn't pull a permit. Okay, how many inspectors out there will take the time to fill out this report on a contractor who did not pull a permit in your house? How many? That many. 0. They don't do it because they're lazy. Different subject. But I do because I'm here to protect you. I'm here to protect my family here in this city. Your city or any city, doesn't matter. I work for the city of Santa Ana real quick, like for city of Santa Ana, and I issued more stop work orders in that city than anybody in the history of Santa Ana. And they said, oh, Bill, we're going to hate for you to leave. What city are you going to? Villa Park. Yeah. So anyway, that's me. So remember, please get a permit. Call me and ask me for a permit. If the code doesn't require a permit, I'm going to help you make it right in one way or the other so that your neighbor isn't going to call me and complain about what you're doing. I'm going to say, well, they got this approval from planning or our city engineer. They're okay. So please, because I write corrections and letters. I mean, 10 a week letters. And I have lists of of letters to send out to these people that don't apply for permits. Anyway, here we go. The next one, appliances. Another question? Yeah, sure. Battery is the new thing for providing power to your home for a short period of time. One battery is going to last maybe 2 days. And what do you want to power up? What is that battery? What are you paying for? What do you want it to power up? So, yeah. So what do you want it to power up? In here we just changed a lot of these lights in City Hall in case we lose power. These lights are going to kick on so that you can get out of here in the dark. So what do you want that battery for? Most people in Villa Park are putting in 2 batteries. How much are these batteries? Like $10,000, $12,000 each. I got one guy up on Lemon, he's got 5 of them. Why? I don't know. But they're there. If he wants them, he's going to put them in, and that's fine. So yeah, they work, but how long are they going to last? The battery doesn't make energy. Solar panels make energy, not at night. Okay? So yeah, they work, but return on investment. Return on investment, okay? So again, appliances. The biggest thing I got here in red is get rid of that refrigerator in the garage. Because it's probably older than your children, and it's just wasting energy, okay? Get rid of it. Or buy a new one, put it in your house, and get the one in the house, put it in the garage. It's going to save you energy. Appliances, look it up. Windows. What's the age of your home? Most of the homes built in Villa Park in the 70s, 1970. Are you going to drive a car that's built in 1970 on the same tires that you had on 1970? No. So the windows are the same thing. How many of you have single pane windows in your home? Most of you. Change them. Not going to cost, I mean, it's not going to be cheap. Each window, $500 a piece, average. Little window like this, $500. Big window like this, maybe $1,500, but $1,500, but it's a trade-off. And you don't have to change them all. You know, why do you want to save energy? You know, I'm going to go into that in a second. But south-facing, west-facing, your sunlight, we want to cool our buildings so you reduce the heat gain into your building. So change those windows. You can retrofit them. There's companies out there that'll retrofit them in a day. And I don't need a permit for them, okay? I wish I did, but I want them to go in. The energy conservation is more important than me just getting a permit for them, okay? I want them to go in. Look for things like that. Changing windows. Tint them. Tint those windows. You got a big window looking out at the view. Tint it. Put tinting on it. But don't put tinting in it on that window that has metal in the tint. Some of these tint fabrics come with metal. And that metal is going to absorb the heat. It's going to radiate it back into your house. So watch what you do, and don't be sold something, okay? Speaking of windows, shading, trees, overhangs, roof overhangs. A lot of houses in Villa Park have these huge overhangs. God, you got big overhangs, 40, 48-inch overhangs. Good idea, shades your windows. But a lot of your homes don't have enough shading. Going back to the energy calculations, there's some features in the energy calculations that demand overhangs on these big windows. I mean, big overhangs, like 10-foot overhang. A patio cover, it's part of the energy calculations. It's not your design. It's the energy calculations that are requiring that 10-foot overhang because it needs to shade that big piece of glass that you want so you can look out at the view. One house up on the hill, plans came in, I looked at them, 35% exterior window glazing of all the perimeter walls in your house. 35% in this house was glass. Do the math, 35%. I called the architect and I told him, I said, did you see those energy calcs? Well, here we go. I said, look at those energy calcs. I told him why. Totally blows his design of his building because of what we call fins and overhangs. Every window that they had on this house had to have an overhang of 4 feet. Every window facing south and facing west. It blew the design. The homeowner's like, I don't want that on my window. I don't want that on my house. Because you structurally, blah, 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 looks in and blah, blah. So they redesigned the building because of State of California Title 24 energy calculation requirements. I didn't have to do that, but I didn't want to wait until they're in framing stage and the building's almost done, and I say, where's your fins and overhang? Now what battle do I have to go through? So in plan check, that's what I got, to what I did. Trees, overhangs, window tintings, that's my next topic. Weather stripping. Your doors, your windows, weather stripping, big thing. It's really easy. When I first got here in Villa Park 22 years ago, I'm driving around looking at it, and I see all this water running down the gutter. I said, look at all this water. You're watering your property. I remember somebody was telling me, yeah, my water bill's $500 a month. For water? Back then, what are you doing? You're wasting money. So reset your sprinklers. Talk to Serrano Water. They'll help you reset. I still talk to Serrano. When I see somebody overwatering their yard, I call Serrano Water and say, can you go help those people up there reset? Because maybe you don't know how to reset your irrigation system, and they'll help you do that. Save water. When you're remodeling your house, did you know that, let's say you're going to remodel your kitchen. Do you know that state code says that I can make you change, I can force you to change every plumbing fixture in your house to save water. Okay, that's in my code. Most of you in Villa Park, when you're going through this, you're gonna do it, or you have done it. Most of the homes in Villa Park have already changed their plumbing fixtures to low flow plumbing fixtures. You know about that, but it is a law, and I make you do it when you pull a permit, because it's a good idea too. Okay, swimming pools. Your pump on your swimming pool is costing you $100 a month. Just the pump is costing you $100 a month. Change it. Low flow or variable speed, variable flow pump. It's going to cost you over $1,000 to change that pump. The pump's expensive. To do the work, it's going to cost you. Return on investment, $100 a month. Do the math. And if you want to demo the swimming pool because it's just a hole in the ground that you're pouring money in, demo it. Don't be afraid to demo your swimming pool. $12,000, you can demo your swimming pool. Permit, $150. Now you don't have a pool anymore. You're going to save how much? Do the math. Return on investments. Okay? Any questions? I'm here to help. I'm done. Thank you.
Dan.
Oh, well. Do the math. So, I'm Daniel Gray. I am not Pam Dunn. So, mortgage questions, call Pam. So, I've lived in the area for about 20 years. My kids go to Villa Park High. They just started. And I sell real estate. So, where I'm going to be coming from is really the real estate market, what we've been going through, what we're looking forward to. I wish my crystal ball was better, and I could give you a real solid, this is what we're going to see in the next year or two. However, it's cloudy, and if it was that clear, I wouldn't be in this job. So let me give you just an idea of where we've been, where we're going, what we're seeing the economy doing to it. We started with a big roller coaster when the pandemic hit. We all felt that. Is anyone in here sell or buy a house in the last 3 years? Anyone? Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't have any PTSD effects if I talk about the story. So the market went through a real tumultuous time because when the pandemic hit, the first thought was fear, and people quickly crashed everything, put brakes on, stopped what they were doing. So the market took a dip. Didn't take very long for folks to realize, whoa, it's not so bad. And although it was bad, it started to come back up. And then folks were forced to live in their house. They didn't go anywhere. So they realized, wow, what are we going to do? Well, they started seeing all the things they needed to fix, how small the home was, how much room they didn't have to do work at home. And they started to want to either repair, fix up their home, enlarge their home, or move. So suddenly, all these people started going into the marketplace looking for construction workers, looking for handy people, looking for real estate agents to buy or sell their home. And it got crazy. We had a huge amount of buyers, not a lot of sellers, but the market kept jumping on itself. So when folks say there weren't a lot of sellers, when I say that, I don't mean that there was no sellers. We had a tremendous amount of sales. The sales were crazy during the pandemic, but there were so many buyers on top of that you never saw the volume sitting on the market. So it never looked like there was, wow, all this inventory there. No, it wasn't, because it was immediately grabbed up. And it was very quick. And so when we're looking forward now into this last year, we had interest rates jump up. When interest rates came up, suddenly the cost of money went up. And now we've got huge demand from houses. The prices of homes went up. Home prices here, now the cost of money has gone up. And now we have folks that want to buy, but it's now more expensive and it costs more to do it. So they're having trouble making that happen. Meanwhile, sellers are like, wow, I can make a fortune on my house. I need to sell. So they're now realizing they don't have as many buyers as they had, so homes are sitting on the market longer. So it's a real sort of interesting situation that is changing, but and people ask me, should I buy now? Should I sell now? Do what's right for you. You know, you have to look at your individual situation. Do you have a place you're going to move to? A lot of people want to sell because of the market. Oh, I got to sell. Where are you going to go? Know where you're going to go first. Don't just think I can sell my home and, head off and buy a place like that. No, it's not. I wish it was that easy. But I just want to be realistic. And I want you to be realistic when you're thinking about what your plans are. I mean, buying and selling a home is huge, huge monetary investment, probably the largest one you'll do in your lifetime. And if you've done it many times, then you're going to go through it. But you need to be cautious about it and think about it. I saw so many people last year in this crazy time that were just throwing money because they were desperate. They were crazed to buy a house because it was so dog eat dog out there. And so that's what caused prices to continue to jump up. But they were just like, I'll double the price. And it's like, whoa. Love to say the house, but just think, are you sure? Talk to your banker, talk to your lender, make sure you've got the money for that. Make sure, do the right steps. So now as we come sort of out of the pandemic situation where calmer minds are starting to prevail, it's still similar situations where you need to think about what you're doing. If you want to sell your home because you want to take advantage of this, great time to sell. However, like I said before, where are you going to go? Are you going to go out of state? Are you going to go up north? Are you going to go into the Inland Empire? Know the area you're going to go. Know what that market's like. Spend some time looking at those homes and understanding what the availability is. Because once you sell your house, you're not going to have a place to live. And the upside, though, is for buyers or sellers looking to buy, they were selling their homes and wanting to get a contingency to stay in their home so they could have time to buy. Well, before they were like, sellers were like, I'm not taking anyone with a contingency. I got 20 people lined up to buy my house. I'm not going to, if you need to sell yours, good luck. I'm going to take this guy and this guy here. So the contingencies weren't happening for people that needed to sell first. Now the market's changed, and I have a person in escrow right now that has a contingency in place because the seller accepted it. We said, hey, we're just upfront with it. We have a contingency. We need to sell our house. We're in escrow. Are you okay with that? And they're like, yeah, we're fine. Great. Let's make a deal happen. But you need to do those steps. Have those conversations. Chat with your real estate agent and say, hey, is this right for me? Can I do this? Chat with your lender. I had a person that looked at buying a home last, I think it was March. No, sorry, it was April. And the rates had just started jumping up, and they wanted to write an offer. Daniel, we got to get it. We got to get it. Okay, talk to the lender. Let's have a conversation. Just double check. Had a chat with the lender. They couldn't afford it anymore. The rates had gone up in that short amount of time. They've now been pushed out of the market. We didn't write the offer. And it was rough. And we're still looking. We're still going to find a place for her. But, those are the sort of things you just need to be cautious of, if you're looking to buy or sell your home. So be smart. Chat with your resources. Your lenders are a huge resource. The real estate agent is a huge resource. Use them. Abuse them. Generally, folks in my industry, we love what we do. And because of that, we're willing to do and go that extra mile. So utilize that. Think about what you're going to do. Just don't react to the market. Take control of it and do what's right. We talked about ADUs a minute ago. Some folks have looked at, well, hey, I've had clients that have talked to their kids about building an ADU in the backyard so they could go there and live. And it's like, the kids are like, okay, well, we like you close, just not that close. So we're okay with you not, being here, but just not in the house. So a house in the back is cool. So, parents are, taking advantage of that, and kids are building ADUs on their properties. Instead of going out and buying another house, they can, which may cost you 700, 800,000, they could build an ADU, which is 300,000, and solve both problems. So there's oftentimes a solution. It isn't just necessarily you have to buy, you have to sell. Just think about what your individual situation is and how it could be impacted. So I hope that helps. Let me tell you just a little bit about some of the numbers, and I only do this because I love numbers. I'm a number geek. So I looked up, Bill called me and asked me about doing this, and I'm like, okay. So I'm jumping in and writing crazy notes. It's amazing when you look at last year, this year, the sales numbers of what's been going on. I took a look at homes over 2 million in Orange County. Right now, there's an inventory of, when I say inventory, that means homes on market, 775 homes, which is a 70% increase over last year, year over year. So last year, that would have mean there was, 300 and change at this time? Now there's 700 on the home. And this is homes over 2 million, okay, in all of Orange County. Villa Park, there's 10 homes currently on the market, over 2 million. Orange County has pending escrows of 135, and that's pending. Means they've released their contingencies and are ready to close. That's a 44% drop from last year. So that means there's less escrows going on, which kind of makes sense. If there's more inventory, that means people are buying less. Villa Park, there's one escrow right now in pending. So, we're a small subset, but what's nice about the small subset is there are fewer days on market in Villa Park, and I think that just speaks to the people that want to live here. People are more excited about living here, so it may not be treated the same as Newport or some of the other luxury markets in the area, which makes it an advantage. If you're looking to sell, you may be able to sell it quicker, because average time on market right now, 75 days. That's a long time compared to a year ago when it was 2 weeks. It's like, whoa, what happened? People lined out the door. It's a different market. So think about it. Talk to your real estate agent. Don't just make knee-jerk reactions to say, I got to sell. Think about where you're going to go, what you're going to do, and do it smart. Questions? Yeah.
Why do you suppose people want to live in Villa Park instead of, based on the numbers you just said, rather than the Newport Beach or the coastal cities where they're going to be more accessible to services? Why do you think that's true?
I can't speak to the accessibility of services in Newport Beach. I could speak to the community of Villa Park as a place, and I think we heard you speak about it as well. It is a friendly and homey place to live. I mean, yeah, Newport has its own boat parade. Well, guess what? So does Villa Park. And it's not just a kitschy thing. It's about people who really care about the community, and that makes a huge difference. So. Mm-hmm.
With open space, we've always insisted on it from the very beginning. So what do we have intrinsic value? If we add to that value, yes, if you're buying a home for an investment, and you can't afford it, or you're lost your job or whatever, okay, build that. If you want to build an ADU, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll make some income off of it until your son moves out, he gets married, needs a house, or your in-laws die off, and then you've got to rent it. We fool the city by saying, "Oh, I'm building it for an in-law." Well, of course, we did that, but it was attached to our house. Neither of our in-laws wanted to come and live with us. They were independent. Maybe we weren't likable or something of it. But the point here is, ADUs have to be measured in the effect on the overall community in terms of not just intrinsic value, but the effect on the community. By building more ADUs, we are destroying the very thing that makes us different.
I think it all depends on how you look at it. From the standpoint of if you're seeing it as I have too many people now in the area, or do I see it as I now have more family close to me because I could put my parents behind my house? Am I using it for rental? I mean, there's all sorts of uses for ADUs. We can't speak to specifics because everyone's different. But I think it just depends on how you look at it.
I talked to the power company and officer with Southern California Edison on the subject of electric power. And I said, we have 241 houses that years and years ago, we got a petition going to stop the opening of Roberto onto Collins. Because they told us when we bought the house that they will never punch that through. So now we get the traffic from the school traffic that to the overcrowded schools. But that's all right, that's within their rights. But the point is that the amount of time and effort that's spent to build your house and then have a portion of the rights that you bought it for taken away, that hurts. And I think the Southern California Edison guy said, out of 241 people, I said, what if half of them buy a Tesla? Can you serve that many cars? And he said, if you have more than 10% of the people on your street, you won't be able to charge, you can't produce enough electricity to charge all those cars.
So here's the great thing, Wayne, about Villa Park.
This is happening by adding more density to our city. We're changing the character of it.
Oh, absolutely. But that's what I was about to say is one of the beauties of Villa Park is you've got a city council that's very open to listening to what's happening, what can we do to impact that, and making a change. So taking those thoughts and ideas you have, share them with your city council person, and that's the right ear to really be talking with on things like that so that you make the right things happen.
We can, Wayne, we can probably bring that back to another discussion instead of the inflation one.
Yeah. Yes, let me hand it over to, Chad. Okay.
Thanks, sir. Well done, Dan. Really appreciate that. All right, I didn't mean to take your jacket, Bill. So I'm obviously not the expert on finance. I'm not the expert on home repairs and being secure, and I'm not the expert on realty. But I have a couple ideas and a couple of thoughts on this, and I come from a family that's been very interested in finance for a long period of time. And so I'm going to share my thoughts on consumer behaviors and how this impacts individual people, both inflation and then the anticipation of a recession. So let me start off with looking at inflation at kind of a micro level. So for each person, inflation is going to impact you slightly different. And you can actually go grab an inflation calculator for you and your family. You can go to the New York Times or Barron's has a really good one, Wall Street Journal. You can look this up and you can look at what your spending habits are right now and then compute your level of inflation. And it's going to be different for each family, for different age groups, for different incomes, and also different all over the world. So depending on where you are, just for us here in Villa Park, you can actually find out how that's going to impact you. And then when you look at that personal inflation calculator, you can see that there are specific things that impact that. Right now, buying a car or buying a used car, the markets on those are severely impacted by supply and demand, specifically supply chain disruption. And the market's gone way up. And so if you're looking at that investment in your life, the impact of inflation on you is going to be greater than somebody else that isn't doing that. And as I was looking at that and thinking about how does that impact the residents in our city, well, maybe there are things that each of us can do in how inflation impacts us individually to decrease that impact that what's happening right now and what's coming in the future can have on each of us. So I highly recommend, and Bill put a fantastic set of checklists into this packet. Go through it, look at, there's 345 ideas. That's a huge resource. And then pick the ones that are good for you. You don't have to do all 345 things. You can say, I don't like this thing that's happening that I'm spending a lot of money on. If I focus on cutting my internet bill or my TV bill right now, that's going to help me in an incremental way that can add up to have a lesser impact of this kind of greater societal thing of inflation on you and your family. The notes I have on this were remove the costs that you're least attached to. Does that make sense? So really simple, but if you've got something that you're spending on and you're not doing it or you're not using it very much, cut that out. And it goes back to the first thing that Bill said about having a budget. And as much as a budget, sometimes it's really kind of daunting to label out all of your expenses and line that up. It's certainly worth doing, but even part of that, of at least identifying what those things are that you're spending money on, that's going to be super helpful. First step, small steps, little things you can do that will make a huge impact on how inflation impacts you. So as I mentioned, inflation is going to have a different impact on different age groups. So like young people right now may not have they have more opportunity to be flexible. They can do more risk taking on certain things. So they may have the opportunity to like look at their income right now as a $15 an hour or $16 an hour and say, oh, well, look at this, just down the street, I can get $18 an hour. And you can jump from job to job and you can increase or decrease the impact of inflation on you because you're able to take those risks. Whereas if you're in the older population group, you may have a fixed income and you can't necessarily take a lot of risks or do things, but you might be able to cut out certain things, especially as you see costs on those go up. In kind of the middle tier area, you'll have people that are spending a lot of money on commuting to and from work. If you can find a carpool or something that alleviates that, there's small solutions that you can find that'll lessen the impact of inflation on you. So then my last point, and I was trying to keep this short and sweet for you guys since, again, I'm not the expert, but just sharing some personal wisdom. Expecting inflation can make it grow. So if you know people that are in businesses and they're talking about locking in inflation and saying, this thing, we're expecting inflation rates to go way up, so we're going to provide raises and do stuff to compensate for that inflationary rate. What you may want to do is hold, to be patient on some of those things to see what happens. What I'm expecting, and as we look at a recession, all of this is driven off of supply and demand. These are not huge, there's sometimes much more complicated notions behind them, but it comes down to basics. We had a very disruptive supply chain that reduced supply, and demand stayed high. We had checks that went out to families, we had money that was available, and so demand went way up and supply went way down. Well, guess what? That's going to drive inflation. I mean, it's really simple. There's not a lot that's going to change in that. It happened all over the world. It's something that we could anticipate, and it's something that we can see a way out of, because as supply increases and as people may anticipate an inflation, if they save, if they do some of the things to hold off on the bigger purchases, you can actually drive that demand back down and reduce the impact of inflation. You can actually have it go in the opposite direction. So if you anticipate inflation the other way and you just think, well, I'm just going to keep spending because it's going to go up, you spend now and it does drive it up. Whereas if you hold off and you keep your spending within smaller means and you try to cut out some of those least essential purchases. And this is my favorite. I love that Bill produced this. So I'm going to hold this up. And just if anybody out in the public didn't get one of these packets, please come to City Hall, grab one. We have more available. But this chart of, my eyes just went cross-eyed. I'm going to need readers in one of these days. Essentials, treats, possibilities, or postponables, and expendables. So if you look at this chart, follow it. Look at what you can, that you're going to need to keep spending on for essentials and what you might be able to cut out, and then follow that as a really good guide, because it really can guide you to lessening the impact of inflation. Who's got questions? Okay, I've got one more comment, because I know that the solar thing came up, and I'll tell you that we replaced the solar. We had to replace our whole roof, and we put a nice big solar roof on it, and we also bought the batteries to go along with it. We are producing a tremendous amount of power, more power than we're using, And we're also filling the batteries that we have during the day and then not using any power from the grid overnight. So while we're not producing from solar overnight, those batteries actually continue to cut our overall electricity bills. So I know I was going to try to mention this earlier, but those batteries actually really help. And you can actually store the energy in that. And then if you've got an electric car, we don't actually charge anywhere else for our electric car. When you say there's a limited number of electric cars, we have 2 electric cars, but we don't charge from anything else other than what we supply as power. So you could have as many electric cars as you want if people are supplying their own power. And that's exactly what we do. We two different electric cars, completely supply those, and we have enough for our house, charge the battery, and more. So there's definitely solutions to these problems. There's really good ways that we can go around the larger infrastructure problem to solve this at a micro level. And the batteries really do help. They're a pretty good investment. No other questions? Wayne? We should have got you a microphone because unfortunately we can't get everybody here. But I think just to convey that in case people are listening later, resupplying your insulation, making sure that it's back up not only to code, but maybe even more than code, that insulation can be a huge benefit to your home and highly recommended. So good advice, Wayne. Awesome. Okay, I don't see any other questions.
What percent did you say with your solar?
I have a whole spreadsheet on it.
10% or 20% or 30%?
So from our electric bill actually went negative, and so we're making money off of our bill. So we went, gosh, how can I explain this? So we're receiving back about 12% of what we used to spend every year. So if it was $1,000 a month, then we were earning back $120 a month. Yep.
I heard that Edison only will buy, you still have to buy at least 13% of your average energy bill from them. They won't turn you negative.
No, that's not true.
That's a 4-year-old quote.
Yeah, no, we're not. Right. For years, I know people that have been paying not for nothing or getting money back. So that's somebody that I think misquoted for you. Yeah. Bill, I'm going to hand this back to you for closing remarks and then opening it up. But thanks, everybody.
By the way, those of you who haven't been watching council meetings, the boat parade, what do you call it? The leader of the boat parade is the family of Chad Zimmerman, who was the first. I've known Chad quite a while, and that's the first time I saw him speechless when Ed Carter presented that to him as a surprise at the last meeting. So that was worth watching that at all. In fact, it's on tape, and you can watch it again to see Chad Zimmerman go speechless. Let me do one thing, because I had want to tell you exactly what Chad and I did not rehearse this. These lists, extensive as they are not meant to overpower. The way to approach those is exactly as Chad mentioned. So one that we haven't mentioned tonight that needs to be mentioned, that's an easy way to take care of your bills, and it's fun if you like to negotiate, is to call your vendors, call your suppliers and say, can I have a better deal? So I used to do this with AT&T constantly, and always they had a better deal for me. And I was in business and calling all over the world, and they always had a better deal. And I said, well, why didn't you call me and tell me you had a better deal? And of course, it was AT&T, so I knew the answer to that. So, but I always got it. So I was bragging about that when I was on the grand jury, and the with a fellow who had been CEO of Northrop divisions around the world, and he loves a bargain. He loves a bargain. So he says, "Oh, Underwood, what are you doing with your cable bill? You just have to call them, and they got a better deal." Or he said, "When they don't, I say, by the way, this other company is going to have a better deal. I'm going to go to them." Sometimes they let me go. So I constantly bring it down. So take this list as an example here. Take the 11 top-level list, checklist. That's this packet that has 52 pages. And turn to, feel like I'm in church saying turn to the Bible. Turn to page 20 of 52 on this document. We're going to track one thing, and that's going to be negotiations. So actually on page 21 of 52 on this page, it says, swap to cheaper alternatives. Gym memberships, streaming services, food delivery services, eating out, holidays, transport. Number 7, shop around for better deals. Electricity, insurance, internet, and phone. So you could pick one of those and just go down on that. Say, this week I'm going to reduce the phone bill. I'm going to reduce the internet bill. To show that that's repetitive in here, if you turn to page 46 of 52, it says number 7, negotiate your bills. Did you know you can call your credit card company and ask for a lower interest rate? Yep, it's relatively easy. Just call them and ask. Sometimes they say yes, and sometimes it says no. It's absolutely worth the 5 to 10 minutes of your time, and assuming you're not in a phone tree longer than that. If you're not sure how interest rates play into this, then read about how the credit card interest rate fees are basically trapping you into a debt cycle. So Sears was the example when I went to graduate school, and you'd been raised with Sears, and that's the price. And they said, the marketing guy said, that's not the price. Ask them if they'll do a better deal for you. And they will do a better deal for you. You just have to get up to the manager or the supervisor that can make that decision. So final one of this, 3, to do the triad, turn to the 6 detail list. And turn to, in your Bible, page 33 of 50. Number 16, it says, shop around for insurance. Number 17, try renegotiating your rent or your mortgage. If you're landlords, you know that on that other side, you'll give if you need to not lose that person. And 18 doesn't quite relate to that, but it says don't get a TV, which is fascinating because we probably have 5 TVs in most of these homes in Villa Park. But anyway, you can negotiate, you can make it. Nothing is set in stone. Landlords are going through the same kind of recession, and they want customers. The city of New York's a great example. They've convened. My other daughter lives in Connecticut, and it's amazing how empty that city is downtown. So they got a lot of, it's disaster day. So they're trying to figure out how they make office buildings into residential to bring people back into that city, and vice versa. So that's tonight. Hopefully it was some use to you today. If you have some additional questions, please ask them now. Thanks for a tight-knit, close group to discussions. I think the nice thing about the town halls, you never know how they're going to go. You never know what kind of input you get, and we appreciate it. Hope you on the stream could hear us. I'm sorry you couldn't hear the questioners in the audience asking, but it was a good feeling. Steve, can we leave these? So we'll leave these handout folders in the City Hall, and if you come in and ask them for one and leave your name and email just to so we can follow up as things change. Several weeks and weekends went into compiling that group of checklists that I can't find in any one place. Somebody could probably publish and make some money out of that. But please come in and use that. It's for the citizens of Villa Park and surrounding Orange, what I call the greater Villa Park, SMSA area. So with that, yes, a former mayor has a question.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I'd like to thank you, sir, for your service to the city. What you city is safe and that we have well-invested funds, and we really appreciate everything you and the rest of the committee are doing for this city. So thank you, sir.
Well, thanks. I'd like to take the experience in this room and harvest that, because the amount of municipal experience in this room has made Villa Park. So these comments about how Villa Park is didn't just happen, but there were council members from, when were you on the council? What year? No.
From 1980 to
1980. So, and even in Rotary, I think there's an individual who was mayor in the 70s. So it goes back. It's that thing that we have. So the reason we have such a great city is, number one, we have a great city manager, but we have always a very conservative, close observing council. With that, it's not quite 7:30. We had the room till 8. Let us lock up and go home and have a good night's sleep. Thank you very much for coming. And thank Chad for this idea to have this. Yeah.
Well done, Bill. Thank you.
Now let's kick him out as mayor. I'm sorry.